Between 2020 and 2022, the U.S. money supply went from about $15 trillion to nearly $22 trillion, roughly 40% of every dollar in existence, created in about 24 months. And here's the strange part. They told you the danger was that prices would rise for everybody, but everybody was the trick. New money does not land on everyone at the same moment, and when you get it decides whether it quietly makes you richer or poorer. Picture the story you were sold. Money gets printed, it drifts down over the whole country like snow, everyone's prices tick up a little and it all evens out. That is not how it works, not even close. Money doesn't fall on everyone. It enters the economy through one specific door, and then it has to travel hand to hand all the way to you, and everything that matters happens on that journey. 300 years ago, an Irish banker named Richard Cantillon watched a government try to print its way to riches. And he did something clever. He didn't just warn people about it. He positioned himself right near the front of the line, made a fortune, and then wrote down exactly how the trick worked. The mechanism is named after him. And the wildest part, in 3 centuries, it has not changed one bit. Here's the whole idea in a single sentence. When new money is created, whoever gets it first spends it at old prices, before anyone realizes there's more money in the system. By the time it reaches the people at the end of the line, prices have already risen. So the exact same money makes the first people richer and the last people poorer. Same dollars, opposite outcomes. It all comes down to your place in line. Make it personal. Imagine you had a money printer in your basement, a real one, and somehow it was completely legal. What would you actually do with it? You wouldn't announce it. You'd quietly go out and buy things, a house, a car, some stocks at today's prices, with money that did not exist yesterday. You'd be spending brand new dollars while the whole world is still pricing everything as if those dollars weren't there. And you would win, genuinely win, because the person selling you that house has no idea the money supply just grew. They price it like it's still yesterday. You hand over new money and walk away with a real physical asset. That is the entire secret right there. The first person to spend new money gets full value for it before prices catch up. Being first isn't a small advantage, it's the whole thing. Now watch the money move. The home seller you just paid has your new dollars, so they go spend them too. But by now word is getting around and prices are starting to tick up, so they get almost full value. They pass it to the next person who gets a little less, and the next less again. Each hand it passes through, prices have crept a little higher. The money spreads out like a drop of dye in water, strongest at the center, fainter the further out it travels. So who is standing at the very end of that line? The person on a fixed salary, waiting on a raise that shows up late if it shows up at all. The retiree living off savings. The saver with cash in the bank. By the time the new money finally reaches them, every price has already gone up. They get the weakest, most watered-down version of that money, and they pay the highest prices with it. They didn't do a single thing wrong. They were just standing at the back. So let's kill the "it all evens out" idea for good. Printing money is not rain that falls on everyone. It is a transfer, quiet, mechanical, constant, from the people at the end of the line to the people at the front. Nobody hands you a bill. Nobody holds a vote. Your money just silently buys less, while someone closer to the door walked away with a house. That transfer has a direction, and it has never once pointed toward you. Which leaves the only question that actually matters. Who is at the front of this line? Because if new money makes the first spenders rich, you'd really want to know who those first spenders are. And I'll tell you now, it is not the middle class and it is not workers. The people closest to the money printer are extremely specific, and the second you see who they are, the last 4 years suddenly make total sense. When the Federal Reserve creates money, it does not mail you a check. It buys bonds, and it buys them from big banks and financial institutions. So the freshly printed money lands there first, deep inside the financial system, long before it reaches a single normal person. The banks are standing right at the door, hands out, as it comes off the press. You're somewhere out on the street, near the back. And what does the financial system do with brand new, almost free money? It doesn't leave it sitting in a drawer. It buys assets, stocks, real estate, anything it can own. So the new money floods into asset prices first, before it ever reaches your wages or your groceries. This is the part almost no one explains to you. Money printing inflates the things rich people already own long before it inflates the things you actually buy. Now connect it, who already owns most of the stocks and most of the real estate, the people who were already wealthy. So when the new money rushes into assets, their net worth simply explodes, not because they worked harder in 2020, but because they happen to be standing exactly where the money arrives first. They were at the front of the line before the printing even began. The money didn't make them rich, being early did. And it goes further. Big corporations get to borrow this cheap new money at almost zero interest, and they use it to buy back their own stock and swallow their smaller competitors. That pushes stock prices even higher, which enriches the very same asset owners all over again. The players near the door don't just get the money first. They get to use it to buy the exact things that money is about to inflate. First in line, twice rewarded. And your paycheck, wages, are what economists politely call sticky. They move slowly and they move last. Your rent jumped, your groceries jumped, the price of a home sprinted away from you, and your salary just sat there, quietly waiting on an annual review. For most people from 2021 through 2022, prices rose faster than pay, which means, in real terms, you took a pay cut. You just weren't told that's what it was. Here's the receipt. Since 2020, home prices in America climbed around 40%. The stock market roughly doubled off its low, and regular wages, after you subtract inflation, went basically nowhere for years. That is not a coincidence, and it is not because wealthy people suddenly got smarter. It is the Cantillon Effect, running in real time on a national scale, right in the open, with almost no one bothering to name it. You've probably heard people call it a K-shaped economy, one line climbing, one line sinking, splitting apart from the very same point. That K is not a mystery. The top line is everyone who owned assets when the money arrived. The bottom line is everyone who was holding cash and waiting on a paycheck. Same country, same years, opposite directions, decided almost entirely by where each person happened to be standing in line. And I want to be careful here because this is exactly where people reach for a conspiracy. There isn't one. There's no villain in a back room deciding to rob you personally. And honestly, that is what makes it so effective. It's mechanical. It happens automatically, every single time new money is created, whether anyone intends it or not. A machine doesn't need to hate you to flatten you. It just needs you standing in the wrong spot. So why has almost no one ever told you this? Because the story is far easier to sell as something else. Inflation gets blamed on greedy corporations, or broken supply chains, or the war, or you spending too much. And those aren't nothing, but they're the surface. Underneath all of it is the quiet distribution problem Cantillon described 3 centuries ago. It's not that they're hiding it from you. It's that who touched the money first just doesn't fit in a headline. Okay, so what do you actually do with this? You can't move the money printer, and the Fed is never going to call your name first. So stop trying to win that fight. You do the one thing that is genuinely in your control. You change where you stand in the line. And it turns out there are 2 ways an ordinary person moves toward the front. The first one you've probably heard. The second one is the part almost nobody ever figures out, and it's the one that actually changes your life. The first move is the obvious half. Own the things the new money floods into first, a broad slice of the stock market, real estate, instead of leaving your future sitting in cash. But here's the move the wealthy actually use and never explain. You don't just own assets, you buy them with the machine's own weapon, cheap fixed-rate debt. When you borrow at a fixed rate to own something real, the everyday version is a mortgage on a home. Inflation stops robbing you and quietly starts working for you. You pay that loan back over decades in dollars worth less and less every year, while the asset itself rides the wave upward. The exact same force melting the saver's cash is silently paying down the owner's debt. That is how a normal person flips from the back of the line to the front, not by earning more, but by owning what the new money chases and letting inflation help foot the bill. Now, real debt is real risk, so that's fixed-rate borrowing on something you'd actually want to own, not a casino. But used with your eyes open, it's the closest a regular person ever gets to standing near that door. So here's what I want you to walk away with. You will never be first in line, that spot is taken. But you do not have to stand at the very back, clutching the one thing that's designed to melt. The people who quietly pull ahead aren't smarter than you, and they weren't first. They just stopped storing their future in cash and started owning the things new money runs toward. Name the machine, stop feeding it, and step forward. If this finally made the last 4 years click, subscribe to Penny Wiser, and I'll see you in the next one.